In this lesson, we'll learn about the basic components and breakdown of the color wheel. Okay, so everywhere around us in the world we live in, everywhere we look, exists color. It doesn't matter where we look, we're always going to see some form of color. It's around every turn, literally. Now, color is actually more important to us and influences us probably in more ways than we really understand. Color actually influences the decisions that we make. Color influences the emotions that we feel, and it also influences the products that we choose to purchase or choose not to purchase. Now, color is especially important to a designer. It's really one of the most important tools in your design arsenal. Really great color choices for a project can actually send that project over the top, whereas a poor color choice can actually break a project. Now, let's just look here in front of us. We've got a basic color wheel. Now, if you've had any sort of formal art or design training, this is probably a familiar sight, and you may have actually learned a little bit about this at an early age. And we're going to break this down in just a minute, but let's first go ahead and talk about the three properties of color. The first property of color is going to be its hue. Now, each of these 12 segments on this color wheel is actually a hue. Now, a hue is actually just a special name referring to where that color exists on the rainbow. Now, the second property of color is going to be its saturation. And now that's how rich the color is. Let me give you an example here. Now, a neon color, for example, is going to be very rich in color, whereas a pastel color, on the other hand, is going to be very desaturated and not very rich at all. Now, the third property of color is actually going to be called value. Now, value in terms of color just means how bright that color is, or how close to black or how close to white that color is actually going to be. Now, those are actually the three basic properties of color, and real important to keep in mind moving forward here. So let's go ahead and break down this color wheel here. Now, as I mentioned, there are 12 segments here, and that's really a lot of color to start out with. So let's go ahead and just hide some of these segments. I'm going to come over here and we'll just hide a couple of these layers, and I've left us with three colors here. Now, these three colors are sort of at the top of the color food chain. These are called the primary colors. We have primary red, primary blue, and primary yellow. Now, these colors are unique in the aspect that these three colors can't be mixed. So if we were painting on a canvas and we were trying to mix one of these two colors, we would never be able to do it, no matter which colors we used. So these three primary colors exist on our color wheel in sort of an equilateral triangle here. And these are really, like I said, the top of the color food chain. Now, there's really quite a bit of space here between each of these primary colors, and if this is a color wheel reflecting multiple colors, there's actually going to be several colors in between these colors. So if we were just kind of moving up the color wheel here from yellow, we would probably pass quite a few colors before we changed into red. So let's just go ahead and bring in our next set of colors. These next set of colors are called secondary colors. Let me just go ahead and bring that layer in here. And as you can see, there are three of them, and they also exist on our color wheel in sort of an equilateral triangle here. It's just inverted and set in between our primary colors. Now, each of these secondary colors are different than the primary colors in the fact that they can be mixed. Now, if we were to try and mix this purple or this violet color here, we would just have to mix the two primary colors on either side of it here. So, really kind of a simple concept. Red and blue is purple, blue and yellow is going to make green, and yellow and red is going to make orange. Simple enough, right? Well, we go a little bit further here, and there's a third type of color that exists on our color wheel, and it's going to sit right in these gaps between our secondary colors and our primary colors, and these are called tertiary colors. Let me go ahead and just bring those in here. It's sort of a big word, but let's go ahead and talk about tertiary colors. Now, as you can see here, we've just added several more colors to our color wheel. Let me just go ahead and hide the primaries and the secondaries here so we can just look at the tertiaries. And as you can see, there are 6 tertiary colors. Now, these colors are a little more specialized, a little more focused, and they exist in between our primary and our secondary colors. Let me just go ahead and bring those back here. And now tertiary colors, like secondary colors, can be mixed. So if we were wanting to mix, say, this tertiary color right here, all we would have to do is mix the primary color and the secondary color on either side of it, and we would arrive here at this tertiary color. Now remember, each of these 12 segments here that exists on our color wheel are all going to be at full saturation. Now, just a little more information that you'll need to know is that any color that we see in the world around us can be traced back to one of these 12 segments on our color wheel. You may be wondering, how can that be? And, well, quite frankly, now that we have broken down the different components of our color wheel, we'll discuss in the next lesson tints, shades, and tones of color.